Hello, everybody. We are back once again for another hot edition. I can guarantee you this one is going to get heated.
Spicy.
I know where our power rankings discussion is going to take us, and I can tell you guys it's going to get heated. But before we get there, as always, this is around the Hoot. I'm your host, Wyatt, and we've got Noah,
Oh shit, are we live?
and Christiaan here with us for another fun edition to talk about everything OWL. So first week is in the books. We are now into week 2 of stage 3, and before we get into all the hot nitty gritty, juicy stuff, Retribution is here. The new game mode, the new public or event, I guess they just call them, is here. Travis is very happy. He lives for these events. He lives for all of these events, so he's very happy. We've got new skins, got a new game mode, learning a new backstory about Talon and all that fun stuff. So definitely check that out. I haven't checked it out myself, but I think Christiaan and Travis have played it. So I mean, I guess give us your
like 2 minutes.
Give us your 2-sentence blurb on how it is, how it feels for this year.
I like it because it plays like a story mission that you would find in like a single player co-op type game, and I like that. And I kind of hope that we can maybe see more of that, because I would love to see like an Overwatch single player like co-op type campaign type deal where they just really dive into the lore and stuff like that. Even though it'll never happen, it'll keep coming out in short bursts through these archive events. But that's kind of how it plays. It's a lot shorter than Uprising. You do not spend nearly as much time in the game, and I would say that the harder I'm still trying to figure out how to beat it on Expert, because when Uprising came out, I just immediately went in on Expert, and you just, you kind of take care of business. If your team is not competent in this one because you have a little bit more specialized heroes, you're gonna get stomped.
You have Moira. What the fuck? You have Moira and McCree. How do you know?
There's so many people who don't know how to play Moira. Moira is a DPS to these people.
You just spray and pee on everybody. Just spray.
Just throw out a heal orb occasionally. Like, it's all good.
No, it's all damage all the time for whatever reason. So the times that I've gotten the closest to winning on expert difficulty so far has been as Moira. Because I'm like, hey, I'm going to keep you guys alive, instead of being like, no, I need those limbs.
People are terrible.
It's cool though. I think they did a good job. And of course, the thing that I'm most excited about would be the skins, which they did an even better job on the skins than they did on the complete product, I think.
Oh yeah, the skins are pretty sick.
Skins are really nice.
Have you seen the Lucio skin, Noah?
I already bought it.
Great. Yeah, alright.
Of course he already bought it.
I had 6K credits, and then I went into I opened a couple of boxes, and I was like, I didn't get the ones I wanted. Okay, and then I bought them up. Now I'm nice and happy.
I think I got Moira and Doomfist.
I'm going to get the Moira one.
I got Moira. I got the old Torbjorn one because I didn't get that last year, and
I got all the ones from last year this time around, and it sucked because I kept opening up boxes, and I'm like, oh boy, a legendary! God damn it, it's from last year.
You should have played last year, dude. I
did play last year. I just never cracked any skins.
I got 25 boxes. I got 4 dupes total. It was nice. I love new events. But yeah, I got the Doomfist and the Lucio skins. They both look amazing with the gold gun. Although I will say that Lucio's gun kind of looks like it has a mustard and a ketchup tube. And I can't unsee that.
I need a lot of skins, so I'll be grinding this game pretty hard between now and the 30th.
So if any of our viewers
if you want to play,
yeah, now's your time, because I'm not playing. Fuck that. I just got back into Dead Cells. I'm back addicted to other shit.
Dead Cells. Vermintide.
Oh, I'll play Vermintide. I'll never say no to Vermintide.
Vermintide, you guys. Okay, so that's Retribution. So that's there. And then straight from something really fun into something that's not so fun. We're just gonna
way high to way low. We're just balance it out.
That's how we're doing this transition. Oh wow,
yep, that's how we're doing it. We're not gonna spend a lot of time here, but as I'm sure you've heard, Dream Casper was first suspended, then terminated, and possibly still under investigation for some sexual misconduct.
Good.
And other things with minors. So, yeah, don't fuck with people who are minors. Like that's just shouldn't have to be said. And the fact, I mean, people keep saying like, oh, like don't these guys have managers? Didn't they have orientation? Like, I'm sorry, there's some things that you just shouldn't have to tell anybody. Like,
I never had to tell my players don't fuck kids.
Yeah, like I mean, he's not old.
Have you read the messages?
I've read all the messages.
They're so cringy.
They're so bad. God. Like even though he's 21, like he I think what we were talking about this the other day in our chat, and Joe, our boss Joe, was saying how a lot of times it's found that people like him in these situations often like to mess with people who are younger because that's more of their like intellect. And reading his side of the text, like that sounds very true. Like even though he's 21, like he seems like he
fucking high schooler.
Yeah, like he seems like he still has that young mentality, and that's why, he ended up in the situation, which is just, and he knew to. It's not like a situation where it was just like, oh shit, I didn't. Like there was text where he said like, hey, yeah, I know that she's like 14 or 15, and then he still continues to.
He did try to play it off in some of the other messages that he didn't know, which makes it all the more worse for him. And there's been a second person who's come out who this time can provide picture evidence. Like, these are pictures that I sent to him. I can prove to you that I sent these to him. And so I guess for anybody watching, we should drive home that this is actually a very serious issue for Jonathan.
I hope his ass goes to jail.
Yeah. It's very likely. California does not have sexting laws to protect people who may get caught up in things like this. So anything that he's looking at, it's not going to be lessened as like you were sending sexually inappropriate text messages to a minor. It's if he received pictures and they can prove this, he's going to get charged with possession of child pornography. If he gets convicted, he's going to have to register as a sex offender. So understand that this is
this is more than just he's not playing in Overwatch anymore. Like
his life's over.
His life is fundamentally changed. Like he is in a shitty spot right now.
He's going to be on the sex offenders list and everything.
Yeah, I mean, so that's gonna make it tough for him to get jobs in the future. Like he can't live certain places. He can't, he can't move within a mile of a school or some shit like that.
Also, imagine the next time he tries to log on and play ranked.
Oh God, he has to make a new account.
He's gonna get inted every fucking game. People are gonna int him and flame the shit out of him. It's gonna be.
He has to make a new account. He can't.
Did he lose his IRL life? He lost his his gaming life too.
Yeah. So this
internet never forgets.
Yeah, like you said, this like Travis said, this is a very serious incident. Like it's shitty. This has happened, and I think it's not to belittle this incident or anything like that, but it's just also shitty that this keeps happening to the Overwatch League in general. Because this is a league that's trying to make a name for itself and trying to be more than just esports. Like they're trying to be a global, a regional thing that's just more than just esports. They're trying to make this akin to the NBA, the NFL. So to have so much of this happen in the first 3 months is just, it's just not a good look. Like we've had the XQC stuff, we've had the timing things, we've had EQO getting suspended for making, insensitive gestures. And now you've got this, and this is, demonstrably worse than everything else. But
everything else was a drop in the bucket compared.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, nothing else pales in comparison to this. I mean, at least with this one, you can almost just hey, clearly this is an isolated case. Like the other ones, you can say is there a toxicity problem? Is there a behavioral problem between all of the guys making the races, in insensitive gestures? This one, you can kind of just be like, okay, he's in a category of his own. So, but thankfully, I think the league and the team handled it well. They suspended him the minute it came out, which, a lot of people were saying oh, can he do that? I think Bryce Blum, if you guys don't follow him on Twitter, you definitely should. He's an esports lawyer. I've heard him talk at a conference before, really, really smart guy. But I think he laid it out perfectly. Boston did what they needed to do, because when it comes to this kind of thing, this is not a court. You don't need to have beyond a reasonable doubt to suspend somebody.
Right.
As long as if there was evidence like they had that we saw Sunday morning, Boston was well within their rights to suspend him, and that's a good move because you don't want to let him play and continue practicing and then be like, oh, are they condoning that kind of behavior? So they suspended him, and then once they got a chance to look at the evidence, they immediately terminated him.
Right.
And now he's done.
I think that's a good thing to explain for a lot of people watching, because I've seen so many comments on Reddit and Twitter that talk about, oh, well, what happens until innocent until proven guilty, which is...
This isn't court.
Yeah, this isn't court. This
is not a criminal court.
So the private enterprise looks at the evidence that they have available to them, and then they do a risk assessment, and if that risk is too high, he's going to be terminated like he was.
Yeah, and like we've seen before with XQC, like, we know that there are bylaws in place within their contracts that allow, I mean, just like any other league,
right.
That the teams are allowed to do this. If there's something that is so great that is kind of outside the realm of competition, they're well within their rights to release a player. And I think these kind of allegations, that is more than enough to terminate a player like that. So, so he's done in the Overwatch League and a lot of walks of life for a long time. So we'll see, as we hear more information, we'll kind of see what happens and where he ends up, what ends up happening with this case down the line. Needless to say, it's not going to be a swift resolution. This kind of thing is going to be in the courts for a long time. It's a very delicate issue. Just if you guys are talking about it online, be delicate with it. Like, I've seen a lot of people saying some shit. It's like, recognize that you're dealing with
pretend lawyers on Reddit.
Yeah, I mean, so you got that, and like this is a 14 and a 15-year-old girl's like, let's not, especially she's on Twitter too, so like, people are flaming her and doing the whole "you're ruining this person's career" bullshit. Like, don't be that person. Just don't, just be delicate with it. Don't even engage with it too much, because just don't get yourself caught up in all the drama. But that happened. It's out the way. Boston, we'll get to them when we look at our power rankings. But I think it does. It's gonna.
It doesn't affect them this week, but it'll likely change.
We made these power rankings before this kind of came out.
Yeah, exactly. Especially, I think they have a fairly easy week. Actually, no, they've got New York. Yeah, so I mean, they have like a half and half kind of easy week. But I think in the future, this could end up having some pretty big ramifications for their team in general. But we'll get to that when we look at power rankings. So that's out of the way. So now we've got some transactions. Travis, why don't you take us through what's going on?
So Apply is now a part of Mayhem Academy, which is just a terrible name, just because in all of our notes it's always like, apply to Mayhem Academy.
It's so throwing me off. Like, their graphic was like, it just said apply and big apply Mayhem Academy. I'm like, what, you want people to apply to play for your team? What? And I was like, oh, that's a player. Okay.
I believe he's a DPS player. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think the only person who would know that would be Noah.
Seemed like it was. I posted a picture of Genji.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what made me think. He does not have a Wikipedia article, so he's pretty fresh, and I don't know anything about him. I know he played for Kungarna, but that's it.
Kungarna is nothing to be proud of.
Whoa, man. Bishu came from there.
Sorry, let me repeat that closer
Bruh.
to the microphone. Kungarna is nothing to be proud of.
Shitting on my man Bishu. Get out of here. Let's see.
You know that Bishu and iRemix have crazy synergy, Travis. You know that?
Oh, man. Let's not drag iRemix into this. I'm a Bishu kind of guy.
You drag Bishu into it, and from Kungarna, you're also dragging iRemix into it. Come on.
So OGE will be eligible to play for Dallas this week. Not really much to say on that. He's kind of always been like in the back of everyone's mind, because I'm pretty sure Dallas picked him up like what, end of stage 1, wherever abouts. XQC was given the boot, which feels like it was long ago.
Sounds about right, yeah.
And then he got suspended, and then he's available now, apparently, because, they're not going to play Coco for some unknown reason.
Okay, let's just get this out of the way. Okay. If Dallas needs a tank, right? and the coaches and the players all say, you know what, let's try Taimu. It's not because they're all idiots. It can't be. We that's not the world we live in, right?
I mean,
And then once Taimu fails, Mickey.
Right.
And we put Seagull, our DPS main, on a role he barely plays. All this should tell you Coco is not in a good place. And let's be real, Coco is never a great tank. He was good back when you could spam Reinhardt and all you had to do was keep your hit scan safe. This was back when, like, Envious, when they were in Korea, didn't need a Tracer player. Before Effect came on the team, he was considered good. And then ever since then, slowly just ramping downhill. I think Cluster touched on it briefly, but, like, when he on his Oversight appearance. But I don't expect Coco to get a job in the near future. Just because, like, I don't think he's that good of a main tank anymore.
So
I think the rest of the world has grown up.
His contract.
No, they won't.
Okay. So, well, I guess I'm just wondering why they wouldn't, there were no rumors that he was being shopped or anything like that.
Because nobody, like,
I think they probably know that they're not going to.
I mean, what team would buy Coco at this point? Like, they all have, like, much better tanks,
He might be the worst tank in the league right now. I'm seriously blanking. Nomi's better than Coco, and Nomi sucks.
Well, like, I think the part that you brought up is, like, incredibly telling. When you're willing to move Mickey around to main tank and then put your DPS on off tank just to make it work, when you have a tank sitting there, I think that shows how bad he is. And other teams, they see that, like, they know that. So, so I think the Dallas knew, like, hey, if we're doing this, like, everybody else can see it as well. So there's no point in trying to, like, let's shop him around, see what we get.
We got a full stage of Coco playing, and that was Dallas's worst.
Exactly. So I think Coco, like, I mean, I guess he's just going to be,
Coco played in stage 1.
He played all stage 1 after XQC got suspended.
Because they had no one else.
He did, because they didn't start doing the whole Seagull experiment until.
I'm wondering if maybe that was one of the players that Kai was talking about having forced on him by upper management.
I feel like having AKM in a Genji meta, having to play AKM in a Genji meta might be more along those lines, but I wouldn't be surprised if Coco was in that time.
Could be.
Because clearly he would have wanted to play XQC. Maybe he didn't want to play XQC at all, and that was one of the guys. We don't know. Whatever.
So also coming back this week is EQO. He will not be
Huge.
back for the first game, but he will be back for the second. He was only suspended for 3 games.
The first game doesn't matter.
And so
getting him back for London, that's going to be really big.
Right.
Yep.
We've seen that
If London decides to show up.
we've seen that Philly's able to handle themselves, pretty well without
Really
him.
well. I think, yeah.
So obviously, I think they'll be back to looking like end stage 2 Philly.
Which, I mean, we'll get to the rankings in a minute, but, like, he was out week 1, and they still ended up number 2 on our rankings. So, like, clearly they're doing fine even without him. Because I think Snillo, he stepped up pretty well.
Yeah. It also helped that they had a really nice map pool.
And they had a really good entrance. They had the marching band and everything. I think that helped.
Snillo with the Rocky entrance. That was
Legitimately, though, if they were on any maps that required a Genji or, like, any projectile characters, that would have been rough. But alas, they never hit those maps, and I don't think the teams they were playing were good enough to capitalize. Oh, okay. They lost to Boston.
Yeah, 3-2, though.
It was close, though. So
Yeah. And because Boston is a team that can, like, exploit if you don't have projectile.
Mm-hmm.
And by running comps that you need the projectile.
All the
character.
games were very close too. For
They were,
Boston, Philly.
And then Boston Houston was not close, or not. But I don't know what I'm talking about. Philly versus Florida. Like, Florida still has so many fundamental problems with how they play Overwatch. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah, RIP Florida.
They will get good at some point.
They will.
KSF and Finzi have joined the Los Angeles Valiant. I believe that happened after last week's show, because that was the end of the trade window right there, and I think these were
that was their last couple additions. It's just more depth for them. Noah Winston talked about he didn't talk about KSF in their video or during the Reddit AMA, but they talked about Fincy during the video they released on Wednesday. Looking at that, so it's just another because they got Space as their main off tank now, and then Fincy will give them just extra backup because they're really trying to get this 12-man roster.
Fincy's a good Zarya too. I don't know about how good Space's Zarya is, but Fincy's a really good Zarya.
Yeah, so he might
Genji one trick.
What? KSF is ostensibly Genji one trick, but he can if you can play Genji, you can also play other easier projectile heroes.
Yeah, so I think they're just adding more depth, so that way they can not run into situations where they just have to field terrible lineups like they did in Sage 2.
Strategy.
Yeah.
I think we covered Damon and Cho Huibin joining Shanghai and San Francisco respectively last week.
Yep.
I've just seen a bunch of things that kind of sneak in under the radar because I try and scour the Overwatch League news and Wikipedia for those transfers, but some of them just they get in there a little late and we miss them.
They're secret, yeah.
Aim God was a late pickup by the Boston Uprising.
Yep.
I'm sure now they wish that they could get a TPS instead of a support. Which, shout out to, I guess, the Overwatch League and to Boston for understanding that it's like, there is no relegation in this league. It is a franchise and the trade window is closed and we are not going to make exceptions, because...
Yeah, I thought that was good they did that, yeah, because if they made an exception, because okay, yeah, your player fucked up, so we'll let you get a player now. It's like, no, that would set a really bad precedent.
Yeah.
Yeah, no example. They took a hard stance. Aim God's probably pretty good, though, so, it's a good pickup for them, either in terms of, this is a player they can develop, or if they're feeling not confident in Calyx for some reason, or if they just want depth at the role. Or even if they want to sub one of their supports, if they want to try them out in a DPS position.
Wait, Aim God's a support, right?
Yes. Aim God is a support.
Why is he on the Overwatch League website? He's listed as DPS.
Okay, maybe they brought him on as a DPS.
Interesting.
We'll find out.
I'm pretty sure the tweet it also said support too on their tweet when they tweeted out, but that's weird. Interesting.
I mean, I think right now, Calyx is their strongest support?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Who's their flex support?
Avast, isn't it?
No.
I thought Note.
Avast is
Note is the flex tank, isn't it?
I think
doesn't
Note
he come
is
in to play
tank.
D.Va all the time?
Who am I
Yeah, I
thinking
think-
of?
Note plays D.Va. Yes, Note 100% plays D.Va.
It's not Avast. I would know. We would know if
Echo?
Avast plays.
Is it Neko?
Neko, it is Neko.
Yes.
He's the other support.
Yep. They have 20,000 supports on their roster.
I just think that Calyx pairs really well with Gamsu, but at the same time I just find that watching them, especially when they come up against some solid teams, Calyx and Neko could probably do more to be killed less. They could be more evasive. There are supports who are better at their positioning and movement on Western teams.
Then who? Calyx and Neko?
Yeah.
I think the way Boston plays lends itself to their supports dying, rather than them being bad players. Because they like to really go ham on dive. When they play their counter dive strats, they rarely die.
That's true. Fair.
And they don't die first often, unless they're playing against a really good dive team like Philly. And even then, in the past, Boston was able to be good enough to pick up trade kills, but not anymore. Now they don't have a Genji or a Pharah. No.
Did we talk about Arhan
no.
last week?
I hope we did.
Arhan?
I think so. I think that one happened before the show.
I think we briefly ran over it, anyways.
Yeah.
In case we didn't, Arhan is one of the oldest great Genji players. He was on the first team South Korea. Cool.
Cool.
Good for him. Getting a paycheck. That's what I like to see.
let's break into this.
Okay,
rankings.
is it power rankings time?
It is.
All right. So, all right. So let's just dive right in. So our number one across the board, New York Excelsior.
Yeah.
They continue to be the best team in the league, and I don't think there's very much question about that. Doesn't matter what meta it is, what team they're fielding, like they're good. So there's not much there. Number two, Philadelphia moved all the way up to our last power rankings in stage 2. They were at number 5. They're all the way up at second now. I realize now we didn't actually do like a week, like a final stage 2 ranking. I think our last one was prior to week 5.
It's 'cause we were all at
because we were all
stage
in
two finals.
at the finals. So I think if we had done a post stage 2, like Philly probably would have been at this point since they did come in second. But they're second now. Like we said, even without EQO, they still looked really strong. They lost to Boston, but they played Boston really well. And then they beat Florida, right? Am I right?
Yeah, 3-1.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, and that was, they should beat Florida. So, but I think
They did get kind of rolled on Route 66.
That's true. Yeah, because
They got fucked up.
They lost. Yeah. So I mean, so there's that. But I think overall, like I think that's probably as good as you can assume. Like a 1-1, and they should beat Houston as well. So like going 2-1 without your arguably one of your best players, not too bad. So I think they're in a pretty good spot coming into stage 3 and continuing on. And then Boston, they moved up quite a bit. We had them at 6th last time, and now they're up to 3. This was one I believe we were all between Boston and Philly. I think 3 of us had one of the teams at 2, and then the other 3 had them at 3. So these were basically very neck and neck for everybody who did our rankings. So like these teams are pretty close. I don't think it's going to be that way next week.
Moving forward.
Because they looked pretty strong. They beat Philly and they beat Houston, but then
Smash Houston.
Yeah, and then Dreamcast happened. So we'll
Dream
see how
Cosby.
we'll see how the team adjusts. I think how they rebound to this pretty big thing kind of surrounding their team will be incredibly telling about what this team actually has. Because as a team, like you're gonna have to deal with adversity, and this is probably some of the biggest adversity you might have to face, because just knowing that there's like this pressure now because the team is under a microscope, everybody's gonna be talking about it. So we'll see how they do. When we get to our predictions, we'll kind of get everybody's thoughts as to how we think they'll fare this week. But it'll be an interesting storyline to watch nonetheless. And then this was one of 3 unanimous picks that we had this week. The Seoul Dynasty at number 4. I think this is a pretty good spot for them, even though they got rolled by the Valiant.
The B team got rolled.
The B team, I mean, that's true. The B team, it was the B team. Although, I'll say, you guys keep saying the B team, but in the post-game conference, they said that although they did say they were confident, but that's probably...
Did Seoul Dynasty actually say, we're sandbagging and trying out new people? No. These are Koreans. They say, we're tryharding all the time, guys. And then you look at what they're doing, and you're like,
Well,
sure.
like I said, they did say that they had been practicing this line and they felt confident. Dying to suck, so of course they felt confident with that lineup. So, but yeah,
the reason the real lineup came out and then shashed the shock.
Exactly. So I think they.
We'll talk.
We'll talk about how they fucked them over, Travis. What do you want? It was a 4-0.
It was a 4-0, but if you look at all of those individual map scores, each map was so fucking close.
Yeah, that doesn't matter though, because Seoul won 4 of them consecutively, and like it doesn't matter like if you stop somebody or if you like barely eke out a win. Especially with a team like Seoul, how they like to win games. They like to pick apart opposing teams. They download them over the course of a series, and then they exploit those weaknesses.
So these long 4 times in a row, that's not an accident.
Yeah, exactly. When they don't. Here's my thing though. I am not denying them the sweep, My problem is with the vernacular that you use in rolling or stomping the shock. That is not the case. Every game was very close. No, that is not true.
Absolutely.
Unequivocally false.
Like,
The
while I
first half of
agree,
each of those maps were drastically. The second half of each of those maps was way better than the first half for Seoul. They were down low team.
While I understand what Travis is saying and the fact that, like, yes, they can be close, but I think, like, to Noah's point, like, if no matter how you win it, if you win 4 in a row, like, that's I don't think rolling is the right term, because I think rolling is a situation where it's like
rolling's stronger than stomped. I'll give you that. So
rolling, I think, is what the Valiant did to Seoul's B team.
Seoul's,
like
yeah,
that was
exactly.
rolling.
That was a rolled and smoked my doggies.
Yeah, I think what the Dynasty did to the Shock was more of just a dominating win by a team by a really good Korean team.
Yeah.
See, I don't know. I just don't agree with that vernacular, because at the same time, that's kind of like saying, oh, well, Philadelphia got destroyed by New York Excelsior in the Stage 2 title. Like, it was no, they didn't. It was a close fucking series.
That was a 3-2.
Not a 4-0.
Yeah,
but my point is, they went and won 3 games consecutively in a row to get the reverse sweep.
That's true.
But it was still a close series.
They destroyed Philly in those games, let's be fair. They destroyed Philly in those last 3 games.
They beat Philadelphia. I think I have a problem with people being using too much hyperbole and overemphasizing.
I swear, every disagreement that we ever have, whether it be on the show, chat, it's always down to like a fucking word. Just like the way someone uses a word, or the way that somebody, like, it's never like huge things. It's literally just always the little tiny things.
New York annihilated Philadelphia in the second half of that series.
Moving on from that one. So number 4 we had Seoul. At number 5 we had the Spitfire. So the Spitfire is a team. They're very weird right now. Like,
weird's a nice way to put it. They're inconsistent as fuck.
And they've been that way for a long time, but I think it's starting to become even more present over the last few weeks. Like,
it was really, really bad this week.
Yeah, like because they lost Stage 2 playoffs to Philly, and then now they went 0-2 this week, in some pretty surprising, like okay, they lost 3-2 to Houston, almost won, but like they always lose to Houston in the regular season, so it's kind of like, okay, whatever. But they got destroyed by the Excelsior.
They didn't get a single tick on Blizzard World, and like that was when Pine was really, really like off his game too. Like, Pine was not a very good Widowmaker that map at all, and they put him on Junkrat and he destroys his Junkrat. It was the weirdest thing to see.
Because Junkrat requires 0 concentration.
It requires 0 skill, but I think that was kind of indicative of what like Pine was feeling.
They told Sabiolbi to go do the Pine's
Jake.
job, which is like, well, honestly though, I kind of like that in that you do not need a trigger for that first point. Yeah.
But it was like, I also like London was switching out players every single map, and that was really disconcerting.
We saw Hureg, my boy.
And like when a team's switching players every single map, that's not a good sign. That's like we're desperate to find something that works.
Well, I don't know. It depends on the map pool. I think on certain maps, if you can make the argument that certain lineups are better on certain maps based on hero pool. Like for Eichenwald, I want somebody who can play long range hit scan and Pharah.
Yeah, right? Sure.
And that's not every player. And then on attack, I also make sure they play Genji. Like they're like, you can't. I think with New York, we're used to just being like, it's Sabiolbi, and then Libero plays whatever else isn't Tracer, and we move on with our lives, right? And it's super easy. But other teams don't have the luxury of having a Libero. Mm-hmm. Hashtag Libero for MVP.
But I think he played Bastion. I think in Nepal somebody played Bastion.
Libero did.
He was. Alright.
Yep. And then they switched off that comp, and then they just ran and dive, and then it worked.
I mean, I expect more things like this from London, and I know that everybody chalks it up to like, oh, they're C9 and they're C9ing, which
they C9.
You're the only one who talks about them being C9. They do C9 a lot. It's funny.
They C9 really that series too.
They did it a lot against Houston, but I think the reason that we expect teams to upset London more than we do like the Excelsior or the Dynasty. So I've actually been working with some data put out by the Philadelphia Fusion's analytics guy. He has a Medium account, and he is privy to data that we are not, because he is an Overwatch League team analyst. And so I took some of that data, and I'm trying to create like a strength of schedule metric for all of these teams using the data that he provided, with like weighted averages and things like that. And so
stop being an overachiever, Travis. You're making
right?
us all look bad.
The way that it's cracked out right now, and obviously I'm still tinkering with it. It's not perfect.
He's just trying to win the
by
power
any
rankings.
means. But London Spitfire has far and away the hardest schedule, based on this metric.
Just because like they're so. What do you mean the hardest schedule? Just they're
So,
facing.
like
They
right
have
now,
played the same teams.
the
as everyone else.
things
Yeah.
the things that I am breaking down in this strength of schedule would be ghost map differential, the amount of maps that they have to prepare for per week, the times between the matches, how many straight up back-to-back matches they have, meaning they play like the last game on Friday and the first game on Saturday, and also back-to-back match days. And when I say I'm tinkering with it, it's kind of like, okay, well, what gets weighted as what, and like as in what's more important to the impact of this score. But I think
Okay.
London consistently has close to the highest number in all of these categories. So like they have 8 bad ghost maps. They have to prepare for on average 6.6 maps a week, whereas teams like, I don't know, say what, Dallas? Yeah, Dallas has to prepare for, I think, 5.9 on average per week. So it's kind of like they usually have to prepare for one more map as opposed to another team. And then time in between matches, they have just a little over 24 hours, I think, at 35, whereas like teams like Los Angeles Valiant has an average of 50 hours between matches.
Okay, nice.
That's why we're gonna dominate stage 3, y'all.
Nap time is OP.
London has the most back-to-back matches, meaning like they play the last game on Friday and the first game on Saturday, which
In this stage or overall?
overall.
Oh,
And then
so not this stage.
no, this is overall, as in like not. I haven't been able to break it down by stage just because some of the data is for all of Overwatch League, and so I'd have to try to
fair
break
enough.
that down myself.
Yep.
But as things get updated and I can get more and more data to plug into this thing, it can kind of the algorithms like should make it update as I plug in more data.
Cool.
But yeah, London.
Cool.
As of right now, London by far has the hardest schedule.
So
They also
RP
have-
London.
They also have like major coaching issues. I think they went through Bishop and then they realized Bishop doesn't do shit, and then like they just look like they're still trying to find some like an identity. They'll figure it out eventually, but not right now.
Yeah, they'll get there, but like you said, they're kind of really struggling. The inconsistency is really starting to bite them in the ass. So,
Speaking of ass, number 6.
hey, wow. I'm feeling so attacked right now. But yeah, so number 6. This is probably where we had some of the biggest disagreements.
Like the
mainly,
bottom
that
half
was
is
just
so
me.
disorganized for all of us.
This was, and when I mean disagreements, I basically mean just me being like, "Fuck y'all! Why are you not putting them higher?" So we have the Los Angeles Valiant coming in at number 6. But
good
just
for
to
them.
give before I let anybody else riff, I just want looking at our rankings, Noah had them at 7, I had them at 5, Travis had them at 8, Christiaan had them at 7, Liam at 8, and then Steven at 5. So Steven's the homie; he also had them at 5, but everybody else had them at least at 7 or lower. So I would like to, as the host, I'm going to start.
Oh man,
So I feel like
use of power.
so whatever. I will abuse all my power.
Don't hurt me, Wyatt. No.
So look, this scene, like, okay, there were no, like, the expectations coming into stage 3 couldn't have been lower because of how shitty they were in stage 2, I believe.
Yes.
Because like they
They
were
were
bad.
competing with Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, like it was bad. Like I was even very like I think I said a couple times I was like, when it comes to managing this team, like they're not that far off from Dallas. But I think after hearing Noah Winston in both their Inside LA Valiant video and during his AMA on Discord and Reddit, kind of like hearing him not just look like reading an AMA, but hearing his thought process as he was answering things and seeing the approach they're taking to the team of wanting to have a full 12-man roster so that they can sub in people that are actually good and not have a sole situation where you have like a B team that kind of goes in and shits the bed. And they picked up some really good. They got Custa, which gives them a lot of leadership. Space is a really good off tank. So I think and they went 8-0. They went 8-0. Okay, sure.
Shanghai.
Yeah. Okay, sure. It was the B team.
You know,
whatever.
they went up against Lunatic High and they won.
Whatever. It was the B team.
Lunatic High is Ryu Jae-hong and Toby. They went up against the shambling corpse of what Hero used to be.
Kiss my 8-0 ring, you motherfuckers.
All right.
When they beat New York, we'll say about that.
Yeah.
Oh
nice
yeah.
schedule.
So I mean,
nice schedule. Actually, shout out to Soul for randomly throwing, but like you know how it is.
Yeah, but I mean, like, are they like top tier echelon? No, not, of course not. But I think they're close? I think they're better than a lot of people are giving them credit for, and
I can see to that.
So
I think they're the 7th best team in the league. That's pretty good.
That's top of the bottom half.
Yes.
Whatever.
I think they're one less than top of the bottom half. My problem is that I'm not about to give somebody, just like I'm being consistent here. I was not willing to give Boston credit for beating a gimped Philadelphia Fusion. I am not willing to give Los Angeles Valiant credit for beating Seoul Dynasty's bench players. Like,
but they 4-0.
That's fine. That like a starting roster should 4-0.
Now that was. Would you say they rolled them, or is that incorrect?
No, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I can tell you that if we went
first time
back
with their
in
new
time,
shot caller, by the way.
If going into that matchup, Seoul announced we're gonna play our bench players against the Los Angeles Valiant, I still would have picked the Seoul Dynasty to win that game.
Woo.
That is how bad LA looked.
I would have thought about it, and then probably.
I'll give you that because they did look pretty bad.
Granted, when we did our predictions last week, everybody got upset except for Travis on his Dallas pick. So we were all expecting Seoul to beat Los Angeles Valiant.
Oh yeah, we were. Yeah.
We also that Shanghai Kool-Aid.
Yeah, Rip Shanghai.
Everybody drank the Shanghai Kool-Aid but me.
I really thought Shanghai was gonna beat Dallas.
No,
don't even.
We'll get to that when we get to our bottom.
Yeah.
I mean, to stop shitting on the Valiant a little bit, I mean, I can see them going either way. Like, Space is doing a good job of coming into the role of off-tank for, I think it was it Envy who left?
Envy, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hashtag Envy was the problem.
Right? And I mean, I like what they're doing to the roster in terms of just trying to build some depth so that they don't find themselves in an unfortunate situation like some of these other teams have. But, I mean, I can still see this Valiant roster going either way, which is why I'm not putting them in the top half of the rankings, because they beat the worst team in the league and they beat an all-Korean bench roster.
You guys will be changing your tune when they go 2-0 this week. That's all I'll say.
All right.
If they go 2-0 this week, you're absolutely right. I will change my tune.
No.
So we'll see. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, that was our. There was a lot. Well, like I said, it wasn't so much a disagreement. I was pissed off that everybody kept shitting on the Valiant. That was basically all that it was.
I would just like to note, by the way, that so far in this strength of schedule metric, the Los Angeles Valiant have the easiest schedule by far.
Whatever, we'll take it. Okay, I don't like. Whatever, I'll take it.
They need it.
All you got, especially now, all you got to do is get top 4 now. Easy.
For the stage, why do you care about the stage playoffs? It's all about the end of the year playoff.
Okay, Mr. Soul wins stages 2 and 3. Shut up.
So we'll win. Something.
The only reason you're saying that is because now that who cares about stage playoffs? The later playoffs, that's what's the big thing. Now that Soul shit the bed again.
Soul get money, they only need the thrill of the hunt.
Like I said, your tune only got changed once Soul shit the bed again.
Themselves only so they can make a victory all the more sweeter.
Hey,
that's a masterful play by Ryu Jae Hong, our Lord and Savior.
Oh my god.
Hey, Wyatt.
The smartest human alive.
Soul doesn't win season 1, they win seasons 2 and 3.
They also don't go 0-2 in a week, you know.
Until they don't.
Until they don't.
Yeah. Hey,
that's
tell
what
me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
That's all we have to do is just add until they don't to everything no one says, and then you're good to go. I build backdoors into everything I say. Okay, so enough talk about the Valiant. The next few picks, we're moving right along the coast of California here. So number 7, we've got the San Francisco Shock. They've got Sinatra now. They've got Super.
Super's huge.
Super, I think, yeah, like Noah's been saying this since even before the season started. Super is probably even more of an addition than Sinatra is.
Yes, Dante, if he does not start in the near future, like I think right now, if you're looking at Team USA, I want Dante over Sinatra. I think Dante's been insane.
I'd rather if Team USA was picked today, I'd be with you. But yeah, I want to see how the rest of Overwatch League plays out because Sinatra kind of balled out this week.
Well, he's getting kind of cocky. I kind of see this in Super too. Like, Super's been really aggressive. That's what you're supposed to do as Winston.
Yep.
But he's also been like...
That's him as a player. He's just like super aggro.
Yeah, but he's been overextending a lot. I think there's some kinks San Francisco really has to work out before they really get ahead.
Also, I just like to point out, like Sinatra, you know, he had that $150,000 reported contract. The man has a Louis Vuitton backpack and slippers, like slip-on like shoes that he wore. Like he rolled up into the press conference wearing basketball shorts and a fucking Louis Vuitton backpack and shoes, and I was just like, this dude, okay,
he knows
this fucking 18-year-old with this Louis V.
This asshole.
Seriously, I was like, wow, he's that guy. But I mean, I can't, like, if I had that much money as an 18-year-old, I probably would do the same thing.
We should ask him to go to Flight Club after the season or stage 3.
Yes, let's do it. But yeah, so that's San Francisco Shock. So they're kind of moving up, so we'll see how they do throughout the stage. And then at number 8, the Gladiators fell quite a bit, I think. Ever since they lost to was it Boston on the last day? All they had to do was not drop a game. What did they immediately do? Dropped a game in that series. Ended up losing the series, and then now they lose both games last week.
No, they won 1-1.
They won. They beat Dallas. They beat
lost
Dallas
to the Shock, and then they beat Dallas.
So I mean, you at this point, like the Dallas are back to a point where, whereas they were kind of moving up a little bit, they're back to the point where it's like you basically should beat Dallas.
I mean, Dallas is the barometer of are you an Overwatch League team? If you cannot beat a team whose off tank is playing main tank and whose flex DPS is playing off tank, you are not an Overwatch League team. Nope. Shanghai Dragons, you are not an Overwatch League team. Everybody else, you're all good.
Yep. So the Gladiators did what they needed to do, beat Dallas, but they lost to the Shock. So, I think they've still got plenty of upside. I think, especially because Void hasn't played yet, right?
Nope.
No.
So I mean,
he's still learning English.
Okay, so I mean, but he's a pretty good off tank, and him and Fisher played together.
No. He's very good.
Is he? Okay, so I mean, but they're the ones that played together before, right?
Yes. Uh-huh. This was Fisher's homie back in the day.
Okay.
If Bishu didn't have to translate, Void would start every game, because Void is strictly better at Diva and every other off tank. Void's insane.
Okay. So
But
once they can get him in there,
he can't speak with like half the roster, so that's kind of a problem.
yeah, kind of a big deal.
Well, let's see what their supports are. Shaz and Big Goose. Oh,
Yeah.
I was gonna say just throw in Asher and get a little
Asher. You can put Asher in. He's the other Korean.
Asher Fissure Void. Start moving towards like an all Korean lineup.
And then they try and speak to the two Europeans, and they're just
I
like,
was gonna say, yeah, leave like hydration in there or something like that. Leave the Brazilian, or is he Brazilian? I believe.
yeah,
so.
he's Brazilian, but he's also American. He tried out for Team USA. He didn't make the cut, and then he tried out for Team Brazil, and he popped off kind of.
I feel like he should make the cut this year because
because we can't run Jake again because fuck that. America would get smashed. We'll talk about it when we get closer to World Cup, but I have a lot of feelings about the team.
Okay, so
Hashtag sleepy. Hashtag sleepy for World Cup.
So Gladiators at number 8. Number 9, the Houston Outlaws.
Disagree.
They
disagree.
So they continue to be on a downward trend, I think.
No.
I think so.
No.
Like,
What
want
do you-
them lower?
To give
I
you,
know,
to
he
give
wants
you,
them higher. Noah has them at
to
like
give
5
you-
or 6.
to give you insight as to what's going on with Noah. Noah put them at 6. I had them at 8. Travis had them at 9. Christiaan had them at 10.
Yep.
Liam had them at 9, and then Steven had them at 7. So we all had them pretty low except for Noah. So Noah, tell us why.
Steven understands.
I mean, he still had them at 7. So
What that's inches. My biggest critique of the Outlaws is that they failed to solve their problem. Not that they didn't have a tracer player, but they didn't know how to play around other tracers that were good, right? And especially during stage 2, the map pool and the meta was way less favorable towards how Houston likes to play the game. In the beginning of stage 3 against London, I saw maybe London is something, sure. But also Houston showed that they understand now how to play around tracers, and Linkser and Jake are good enough at tracer to accomplish what they need. They can be role players on that role. They will not carry a game. Let me be fucking clear as shit right now. They will not carry on that tracer role, but they can do tracer things, right? And not only that, I think the back line is starting to finally figure out what it needs to do. I think the front line is also starting to understand what it needs to do. They just need to find that internal consistency and develop this playstyle. But I think the Outlaws have made huge strides in trying to solve the things that have made them weak in the past. And not only that, but I think this map pool is very much favorable to them. So I like the Outlaws going forward. That's why I have them at number 5. They showed me that they knew how to solve their problems, and they just have to grind and work on it. And every other team, I felt like, benefited from this being early on when nobody understands what's going on. Bang.
I feel differently. I mean, and to be fair, I think this definitely stems from what I think their problems are versus what you feel their problems are. Because I feel the opposite in that I feel that their problem is that not that they didn't know how to play around a good enemy tracer, but rather that they're being stifled or crippled by their DPS hero pool, because Jiri or Linkser can play everything pretty much, and Jake can play nothing. Like, and that's not to like take a shit on Jake.
Jake's decent at many things.
The problem is Jake an Overwatch League level Genji? No. Is he an Overwatch League level Tracer? No. The thing that he plays best is Junkrat, and that's why you'll constantly find him switching off onto these other heroes, but ultimately almost every single map he will always come back to Junkrat, especially when things get tight.
He is also their soldier and Pharah specialist.
He does play a good soldier. I will give you that.
And a decent Pharah. People like to shit on him, but his Pharah's not bad.
But it
better than what's the dude's name? Florida. Tavik. Better than Tavik's.
To me, and obviously again, not coming from an Overwatch background, like in Dota, if you have a player with a weak hero pool, you're like, whatever you are best at, we will find a way to get that into the lineup and work it into our strategy. And it's because you can't play other things, and we don't want you to play other things because we will lose. And
well, I just feel like you're doing Jake a disservice. I think his tracer is improved by a lot.
I would agree with that.
He's not a carry, but he doesn't need a carry because he just needs to make people not look at Linkser for like 3 seconds.
He's doing a better job of that, but to me it's still not good enough. And the only reason that I say that is I can still see those problems, and then when you look at the results, Houston is not like they are an Overwatch League team. They can beat Dallas. They are an Overwatch League team, and they are a good enough Overwatch League team that if London hands them just way too many opportunities like they did, Houston is capable and smart enough to take advantage of those opportunities like they did. That's why they managed to get the edge on London. Meanwhile, Boston came and took a shit on them. Like
Boston was shit, but Boston is the 3rd best team in the league. So like that was expected, right?
I mean, they're the 3rd best team in the league this week, but I mean, just even to me, I expected the match to be closer. And especially if Houston can play around
not in this
tracer
meta,
players.
Not in this meta, not with this match pool, no. Their anti-dive gotten weaker considerably, and Boston is the best dive team. That's not Korean. But I don't know.
So,
I just feel yeah, okay, whatever, moving on.
Sure. To me, it's just a team that can beat London. A team that beat London should theoretically be able to beat Boston.
London's too up and down though. They're not a good barometer of anything.
Sure, but I mean, we're only
the teams that beat London are show how London is feeling on any given day. That's about it.
Fair.
So yeah, clearly jury's still out on the Outlaws, but we'll see how they do this week. They have a pretty rough schedule this week. I mean, we'll look at it when we get.
They're going to lose both their games this week.
Although it's funny that Travis is railing so hard against the Outlaws, but he has them beating Philly this week, so that's interesting. So we'll look at that once we. Yeah, you put down Houston beating Philadelphia.
Bro, that's no, I stand by that still.
Okay, so we'll get into that once we.
That's the first game. I thought it was the second game.
No, yeah, it's the first
I was
one.
about to be like, that's a fucking typo.
So that's at number 9. The Fuel at number 10. I think we've talked enough about the Fuel Talassus a million podcasts. So they are terrible, but not as terrible as our 11th and resident sleepers down at the bottom of the standings. Mayhem at 11, Shanghai at 12.
There's one good player amongst both of those rosters.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Or
looking
like
at
maybe
both of
2
these
or 3.
teams, and obviously I mentioned in the blurb that OG is supposed to show up this week, and to temper expectations, like, people did not for Gaguri and all the rest of the players, where, for OGE, like, you know, we've seen this too many times, sadly, across the course of 3 stages, that one player is not going to make the difference for the Dallas Fuel.
For sure.
I think for the Fuel.
For the Dallas Fuel, one
They
player
never added
is
a
not gonna
tank.
make
They
the
just added
difference.
DPS players.
I mean,
yeah. I guess this is probably going to be the biggest
DPS
thing
was
of like,
never their problem.
Is it the tank that is their problem? Because OGE, if the tank was their huge Achilles heel, and OGE comes in and lights it up and they start winning, like, hey, maybe they themselves will be an Overwatch League team.
Maybe.
But we'll see. And then the Mayhem, you know, they finally play a side player.
He's very good.
He's good. He helped them win a map.
Do you remember when I told you guys that I was like gassing him up forever, and you were rolling your eyes like, okay, whatever, Korea boo. How about now? How do you feel about him now?
I mean, to be fair, it wasn't as though we were rolling our because like we.
I could hear it. I heard you.
It's just because you love to wax poetic about every Korean in the league.
Not every Korean.
Most Koreans in the league.
Most of them that deserve it. I will.
True. But the Mayhem still have a lot of problems. The Dragons, looking at them during their press conference after they lost to Dallas on Wednesday, they looked absolutely dejected. Like, I felt bad for Gaguri because I know, like, she's worked her ass off to get here, and this is what she has to play with. Like, she looked miserable during her interview. Like, the whole time, I was just like, can we end this so that they can just leave? Because like they asked her a question and she would give like a 2-3 word answer and that was it.
Bro, when you're the Cleveland Browns, nobody wants a post-game interview. We all know.
Yeah, like when they brought them in, like I didn't know they were doing lose them in. I was just like, oh god, like whereas like it was a stark contrast because you look at like the Dragons looked dejected. I think I forget who was their main, the guy who was talking a lot. Who is their DPS player? Ado, I believe. Was it him?
Fearless?
I know the Genji
is the tank, but
I'm trying to remember who it was who was talking
Sky?
for them a lot. No, Dia. I think it might have been Dia or altering. I don't know.
Dia.
Somebody on their team.
Okay.
Was the it was somebody could speak English.
Why I can't tell Chinese and Korean people apart, confirmed.
Look, man, I saw a lot of people that day and I couldn't. Whatever.
All right, moving on.
But there was one person like the entire time they had a translator. He started speaking English and like was answering questions, and we were like, "Oh shit, okay, he speaks English." And like all he kept saying was, it sounded to me, and again, there's a language barrier, but it sounded to me as though he was saying, because their communication is pretty bad because they all speak different languages, and that's clear. But it sounded like he was saying, "Yeah, I know we speak different languages, so we just let our play speak for itself. Like we just kind of let our skill do the talking."
Well, that's not what they were saying beforehand, but like I think we all underestimated how big communication between
like it's from what like they literally, it sounds like during a game they almost have no communication and they just kind of do things, and that's why they end up getting the results that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And then the weird part was like looking at them, how dejected they were versus the fuel. Like when the fuel, actually I guess they won that day, so I guess they would be happy. But like even still, like just throughout all the turmoil they have, like that team, they looked like a team that was like leading the league. Like Mickey, I mean that's just his personality, I guess. But like Mickey was literally just like laughing his ass off and just like being silly and shit. And like so was Siegel. So like it's just weird looking at just two teams that are at kind of the same spot in terms of their relative power. But like one is just looks dejected and the other looks like they're just kind of resigned to their fate and they're just having fun. But yeah, the Dragons, like I just feel bad. Like it's like watching like that press conference was one of the most awkward things that I've been a part of. And hopefully, I hope they get good soon because like you don't want a Cleveland Browns. Like that's not fun for anybody. Like
it's embarrassing.
Like watching a team just get clapped over and over and over. Like it's not fun to watch. And I don't even think that's not even fun to beat, because if you're in a professional league, you want to play against the best. Like you don't want to just get free wins and stuff like that. So I think I hope they can get their communication taken care of. I mean that communication is probably like the hardest thing. Like you can practice your play, but learning to speak the same language is kind of it's rough. So like having to say something in English and then put it into Chinese and then having them put it into Korean, like in a game like in League, okay, it's a little bit slower paced. Maybe you can get through that. But in Overwatch, when it's literally just go, like that 3 layers of communication, that's just, it's so big.
It's like a big game of telephone every time you do anything.
Exactly. So trying to do that in the middle of
by the time everybody has the same call, like it's already too late and the Genji has killed your team.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we'll see how this team does, but it's
if somebody in comms has to say, "Wait, what?" You're already lost.
Yeah,
like, that's nuts.
Yeah,
that's why I love Overwatch. It's so nuts. It's so like, whew, it's an adrenaline rush every team fight, except when you have the other team has like 5 ultimates and you're like, all right, we're just lambs to the slaughter, but we need them to start burning ults, so let's give it our best shot.
Yeah. So.
So
there's our power rankings. And then before we close out with predictions, we'll do our weekly buy or sell. Travis, take us through. What do you have for us this week?
Buy or sell. The London Spitfire will not make Stage 3 title matches.
Title match.
Title matches.
Well, just matches.
No, I said
playoffs,
will not make
playoffs in general.
When I say Stage 3
postseason.
titles,
Stage
Yeah.
3 postseason.
Yeah, as in they will not be top 4.
Oh, so.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm
also
pessimistic.
in the
They're
bye-
Korean. They'll get
I'm
it together.
in the bye camp.
Yeah, see, like their inconsistency is showing ridiculously, and other teams are getting better. And I think out of the Korean teams, they're the ones that are getting the worst because, like, at this point, okay, like you almost have to assume, like, or I'm gonna assume that Seoul will finally get their shit together and not
Don't
miss
say
the
it.
playoffs
Don't
again.
say it. Wyatt, everything you say you like dies. Don't.
Yep.
don't-
I'm doing it on purpose. So I've got the Excelsior and the Dynasty making the playoffs. So that just leaves 2 spots, and there is a lot of really good.
Philadelphia is taking 1, so that leaves 1.
So and I think there's another team that can easily beat out London for that 4th spot.
The reason that I buy here is because London has never lost more than 3 games in a stage because they've been in both of the title bouts or postseason for each stage.
Yeah.
They've
already lost 2.
and they've already lost 2. They get Philadelphia at full strength at the end of this week. They still have to play 2 arguably good teams over the course of the season. Actually, I think in week 4, yeah. So they play the Gladiators, and they will also play the Shock.
Yep. And I think losing these
And they still have
first
to
2
play
games
Seoul
that they
Dynasty.
lost, it's just going to kind of destroy them because then it's going to be too much to overcome because they really, really screwed up this week.
And I mean, obviously, my SOS metric isn't perfect yet, but the stats that are fueling it, like, they have the least amount of time to prepare in between matches. They prepare on average for the most maps per week. Like, it's rough life.
Well, I mean, even just looking at their the last week, like they play the last game on Friday, and then they have the first game on Saturday. So, like,
Yeah,
after
but they're
they
not
finish,
losing to Shanghai.
I mean, true, but I mean, I think that. But just speaking to like how, like you're saying, they don't have that much turnaround between games. Like their games are frequently just like back to back, and that's rough for any team. So.
And I think they don't. I thought in week 4 they might play on back-to-back days against the Gladiators and the Shock, which would be brutal. All right, so buy or sell. The Shanghai Dragons will win their first game in Stage 3.
So.
So,
It didn't
yeah.
happen last week. It's not happening.
I did, yeah. Like I
Wait,
just.
when do they play Florida? Actually?
Let's see. They got Gladiators.
Do they this stage?
They got Seoul.
They have to.
And then, yeah, they do. They play week 3 on 420 actually.
What does that mean? What?
I don't know.
More than
It's a
smoked
date.
in my
420.
doggies.
What's so significant about 420?
Wait,
That's
what
when
the-
my sister-in-law is getting married actually. So.
Bruh.
Mazel tov.
Honestly, I think that Shanghai. The reason that I buy on this is because I think that they can get it together sometime this stage. Not like a consistent, but like, you know.
Who do they beat?
But that's my question is like, okay, so next week is probably
They
their
don't get
best
Dallas.
chance.
All right,
They
hold on.
already lost to Dallas, so like
Yeah, exactly.
their
This week
next
was their
chance
best
is
chance.
Florida, and that's next week.
Here,
And I don't
here
think
it
they're
is.
getting it up by next week.
Here it is.
Because by
Do
week
you
3
think-
they'll figure out things.
Do you
Well,
think?
not Dallas.
Do you
Or
think
Shanghai.
Shanghai could have it together by the 5th week of Stage 3?
No.
No.
Because at that point everyone's
They're,
going to
in the 5th week, they're playing New York and London.
They
Also, it doesn't matter.
But they get London on the back-to-back match after London has to play Seoul Dynasty.
Travis,
that
you
doesn't
just
matter.
said 5
It really
minutes
doesn't
ago
matter.
when I
They're
brought
not
that up,
losing
you
to
were like,
Shanghai.
London's not losing to
But
Shanghai.
here's the thing. What if they do? Because that's the immediate thought that I had after saying that. It's like, yeah, but what if they do? Because a week ago I would have said, okay, yeah, but Seoul, like, even
Here's the-
Seoul B
how many
team's not
languages
losing to
does
Valiant.
London have to speak to each other?
1, Korean.
How many languages does the Shanghai Dragons have to speak? 3.
3, right?
Yeah,
So-
because I think one person says something in English, and then they go Commander.
London is fundamentally a better team than Dallas. Agree, disagree?
Yeah.
Yes, because you put them higher in your power rankings. So if London, who went
Yeah,
0-2,
that's the reason.
I'm just gonna use some crazy
Socratic.
whataboutism and yeah, whatever you said. So if Dallas, who 4-0'd Shanghai, is clearly worse than London, London has and Shanghai has a stage to get their shit together, but so does London. Which is why you guys skipped me for the last one. I think London's gonna make it in because they're gonna get their shit together at some point, and then they're gonna be like scary again. But whatever. Like, it doesn't matter how much Shanghai improves. They have B and C tier Koreans. That was their solution, and they're going up against the Korean solo queue God Squad. It's not happening. It's not happening, Travis.
I think Shanghai will surprise.
I will call you
somebody.
Lord Travis for a fucking year if it does.
Wait, if what?
Clip that. If Shanghai beats London, I will call him Lord Travis for a goddamn year.
Oh jeez.
Clip it. Like, I'm that confident.
I just did. That's fine. I got it.
All right. So last buy or sell, the Boston Uprising can still succeed without Dreamcasper.
Well, what do we mean by succeed?
They will
Yeah.
maintain the same level of success as though they still had him.
So maintaining
So-
like 2 and 3 spot.
As in, yeah, they could still they're still firmly in
So-
the running for titles.
So, yeah.
So,
No,
Because
I-
losing Dreamcasper, even though he didn't make the team, he was an essential part of the team.
no, he was a huge part of that team. That's not even true.
yeah,
like-
I mean, it wasn't like, yeah.
Striker's a great tracer, and I don't know what mistakes plays. I'm assuming also his game.
Robert Kraft is going to get his second Tom Brady, and this time it's going to be in esports.
It's not mistakes.
You don't know that.
I do know that. It's not mistakes.
Okay,
It's
Mr.
probably
Baby
not
Bay is the
mistakes.
LeBron James of the Overwatch League.
Yeah. Wait,
This
is that
is my-
directed at me or Travis?
No, Travis.
This is my
Okay.
new meme.
Alright,
Tom
alright.
mistakes
I like
Brady.
the meme. I like it as a meme, but so they're gonna be like 7th or 8th at best.
Probably.
Yeah.
I could see Boston falling.
The
even
infrastructure
further.
is so good for that team, but
Well,
like
here's
they
the-
can't have 2 tracers, and that's a
we-
problem.
We could end up seeing Boston be the 11th team if Florida and Dallas finally get their shit together.
Nope.
That's, yeah.
Nope. Let me stop you right there. Florida's problems are things that take a year to fix, or personnel changes, and that ship has sailed, and they did not change the correct personnel. Meanwhile, Shanghai's Lamau. So nice one.
All right.
Liam didn't make his pick.
So, okay, so we've got predictions to close this out. Once again, a lot of these, I think, although we said that last week, we were like, yeah, a lot of these are
I'm
pretty
telling
straightforward.
you, man, every time that we get a bunch of the same picks, we all end up 7 and 5.
Yep. And yeah, literally this week again, we were all 7 and 5.
Some of us
I
were
think-
negative. Not to call anybody out. Named Steven.
Although in his, or actually, I don't know who he would have picked between the last one, but you know,
He would've-
Steven should be counted as a correct pick. TBH.
False. Steven is not a
But-
correct pick. Bruh,
I
I'll take
changed it.
away your editing privileges.
He probably okay. Let's be real. He probably picked New York.
But I'm not. We're not assuming that. I will
I'm pretty
assume.
sure.
this is,
I will-
I'm pretty sure he PM'd me and said New York. Let me check real quick. Anyways, let's continue.
as
this
he
then.
looks that up. So, opening the week, we've got Shanghai and the Gladiators. Gladiators should easily win for the reason that we've talked about ad nauseum, with Shanghai just having a lot of problems. Second game of the week, we've got the Valiant versus the Shock. This one, me and Steven
and
are,
maybe Liam.
and maybe Liam. I think Liam is split. I think he can come up with a decision because he left this one blank. He did all the rest, but I think he was torn on this one.
It's a hard
What?
choice.
I think it's going to be a pretty close match. Obviously, you guys know why I think the Valiant will win. I think they've turned the ship around and they're back to kind of where they were in stage 1. And So I think they're going to be able to win this. But if the Shock win, I wouldn't be surprised. The Shock is a really good team now.
I have a hard time making that same claim just because it's not the same roster. So it's kind of like this team seems to be capable, but at the same time, we saw them beat Seoul B Team and Shanghai, which doesn't.
They went 8-0.
I understand.
If they dropped a map to Shanghai, that'd be a fucking nightmare.
No, I know.
Like, that's my thing, is I don't know,
This,
like,
the
this
team
team
that
is
literally
an
takes
enigma.
4 seconds to communicate what they're doing. Like, come on.
This team is an enigma to me, and the San Francisco
Valiant
Shock
or
look
Shock?
really good.
The Valiant.
And so, that's why I can't pick the Valiant. And I picked Gladiators because I decided to be faithful last week, but I wanted to pick the Shock for that one, but I decided to be dumb instead.
Yep. That was.
That's what I like to hear.
But yeah, so we've got that. So we'll see. I mean, if the Valiant if they win this game, I think that'll kind of speak to kind of where they're at as a team. But we'll see tomorrow. Did you still want to make that lore bet, Travis? I know you mentioned that the other day.
Oh,
for this
absolutely.
game.
I'll do that.
All right. So me and Travis got the lore bet for the Valiant Shock series. So we'll see.
You better fucking happen, by the way.
So we'll
Last
see.
time there was a lore bet, there were no calling of lore.
I forgot.
No.
Last time, I think I lost and I forgot.
Yeah, and I
And
did too.
whoever
And
won
I'm upset.
also forgot.
And I'm upset. So
The
we're gonna fucking...
Lord isn't the thing that that's not the thing that floats my boat. It's
calling
the
other one a
bragging rights. It's being
Just winning,
right.
yeah.
No,
Being right.
I
The
want people to
vindication.
refer to me by a title of royalty. That's what I want in my life.
So yeah. So that's the lore bet for next week. We will remember this time, I promise. And then closing out Wednesday's action is Seoul versus Dallas. And as we've said before, if you can't
Seoul
beat Dallas,
will lose
you
if they
are
run their
not-
B team. Actually, no. Seoul's gonna run their B team and lose. I already know it. I'm already gonna predict Seoul, but like I feel it coming.
Soul's gonna run their B team and lose to OG. Oh gosh.
And people are gonna be
lose
like,
to the
"Wow,
Con."
Dallas have really fixed their problems." And then Dallas is gonna play a real team, like Valiant, and then
No,
yeah.
you can
And
clip
then-
this. If Dallas wins, I am not gonna pull a Wyatt here and be like, Dallas is back. I'm gonna be like, Dallas
Hey,
beat the Seoul
hey,
B team. Congratulations.
Hey, whatever. So then Thursday we've
you
got.
can't immediately say whatever, man. Come on, you gotta stand your ground.
That's all I have. We've got the Excelsior versus Boston. Boston is Boston now because of their player being the shit. So they're probably gonna lose. They will lose because
I'll say this. I see this as a potential upset.
Okay, I
Like,
saw this as a potential upset until Dream Casper.
If Dreamcasper was
Oh
in,
right, I
maybe.
don't know why I keep forgetting.
Also,
But without
also,
Dreamcasper,
depending on the map pool, I think Libero is amazing, and Sabiobi is amazing. And it doesn't matter if New York's tanks are underperforming because Jonak is at their DPS and a healer
Yeah.
at the same time. So like,
Yep.
it's,
It was like he did more damage last week than healing, and I found that kind of funny.
yeah.
Like by like a couple thousand points.
And let's not get it twisted. He had good transes, so he had
Oh,
good healing numbers.
yeah. So that should be an easy win for the Excelsior. Now,
Whoa.
then we got London versus Florida.
Liam picked Florida.
Liam picked Florida. We all picked
Liam's
London.
high, apparently.
I realize we've been kind of giving London the short end of the stick by calling out their inconsistencies, but they're playing Florida.
What is
So,
Liam doing?
I don't
I
know.
feel like this is one where we want to be like, Liam, are you sure about this one?
I think this is wishful thinking.
Well,
Maybe.
I have to predict.
then later he picks London to beat full strength Philly at the end of the week.
I
So
think,
do you.
I think,
How does
I
a
think
team
Liam's
lose?
trapped. I think Liam's trapped in time or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
How does
true.
a
How
team
does
lose
the
to
team
Florida
lose to
and then
Philly,
go beat
but then
Philly?
beat Philly? Yeah, that's very weird.
I want to message him and say we're making fun of your picks on the show.
Hopefully he's
So-
watching.
Maybe he will change his pick on that one, but for now he's got Florida beating London. And then closing out Thursday, we've got Philly versus Houston. We've all, except for Travis, picked Philly to win this one.
Yup.
Travis, why?
I mean, mostly it's just because Philadelphia is without EQO, and
Isn't he coming back that day?
He comes back.
EQO comes back in the second game. He's suspended for 3 games, so he misses the first 3. He will be back against London. I think that Houston matches up pretty well against Western teams. I think objectively that Muma is a better tank than Fraggy. I think that the Fusion definitely have the Fusion definitely are better supports in my opinion. But so, and here's my thing that people probably would get upset about, and by people I mean Noah, is I'm not a Carpe Widowmaker believer. I think that Linkser is objectively better.
That's wrong, but okay.
That's fine. This is how I see it, and for whatever reason, maybe it's whenever I'm paying attention that Carpe is, underperforming, but most of the time watching Linkser, the guy is always on, and I think he's gonna get the better of Carpe.
What are you watching, dude? Linkser is he's inconsistent within the game, but he's consistent enough to the point where he's a good player. Does that make sense? He's old time move, but better.
Sure.
Okay.
Carpe's a fucking beast though. I don't know. Linkser might be the best counter Widow in the game, but if Snillow's in your backline one clipping you can't exactly aim at Carpe. You gotta go. You got shit to deal with.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, we could very well see,
it will be very map pool dependent. I will say that.
Sure.
If it's a Houston flavored map pool, I honestly think it would be surprising if Houston didn't. But I looked, and I think it's a Philly pool.
We can check that. So the map pool for it is Volskaya, Numbani, Ilios, and Junkertown.
Okay, the Junkertown one's a big XD, but everything else I think points to Philly.
I would agree with you that at least the first 2 point to Philly. I think.
You don't like Ilios?
See, I'm torn because, I would rather have EQO in the mix.
Obviously,
Ilios. But they don't have anything else to. Well, that's not true. They could play Shadowburn, but
no, they're going to run the exact same thing because you want double hit scan on ruins, and then it's a really good tracer map independent of everything else. Honestly, Ilios is just good for double hit scan in general. That plays into Philly's playstyle right now. You only want Pharah on Well or Lighthouse for the mid fight, and if you lose the mid fight, you have to switch off.
Sure.
So why? Let's just cut out the middleman. Let's just assume we're gonna lose that. Also, Jake's not gonna play Pharah, so fuck it. We're just gonna play double hit scan. And we're gonna destroy his junk or whatever he plays.
I mean,
just wait for one of their just wait for Houston's tracer to go over.
We don't know the tiebreaker map, right?
It doesn't matter. It's not going to 5.
I think it could go to 5 personally.
I think
the tiebreaker's
Oasis.
Is it?
Yeah, it's Oasis.
But it still doesn't matter because it's not going to 5.
We'll see.
All right, we'll see. Fair enough.
I mean, I don't feel great about this Houston pick, seeing the map pool now, but
Lord bet.
But I don't feel good about this. So, do you want to Lord bet? No.
Come on.
He's already made. He already made. We only one Lord bet a week. Okay.
Why do you get to make it? Come on. It's on some dumbass not soul versus not soul team. I don't get it.
Whatever. Anyways, so then going into Friday's games, we've got Valiant versus Dallas. If you can't beat Dallas, you're not an Overwatch League team. They should beat Dallas. And then, very much the same reason, Shock versus Dragons.
Yep.
Shock all speak the same language. And then Soul versus Gladiators. Soul's not going to run their B team against the Gladiators.
No.
So I think they're going to win. Travis thinks that the Gladiators will win.
It should at least be a good match.
But he is a Gladiator apologist, so I think
I'm a Gladiator apologist, but the reason for my picking Gladiators here was not for my love of them, because right now, I'm cheating with San Francisco Shock because I'm really feeling them right now. But so for me, I don't have a great gauge of where Soul is because the last time we saw them at the end of Stage 2, they were losing to Houston, who was not an Overwatch League team at that point in time. They start off Stage 1 by, confusingly enough, running their B team against the Valiant and getting rolled. And then they took out their frustrations on San Francisco Shock with their main roster, and even then, it was close.
Didn't look great. Yeah.
But there were a lot of maps that could have gone to the Shock.
If they could have, they would have.
Well, I think Shock's a little
I don't
more
know about
versatile.
that.
But
I don't know. Like, they could have, they didn't. I wouldn't say if they could have, they would have.
With a team like San Francisco, their star power, like they got solved like a Rubik's cube. This is how Seoul doesn't win clean series. I don't think. Like historically, this team does not win cleanly unless
they're more of the
really
like
bad.
the like gritty
Download. They
out.
download you.
Yeah.
They download you and then they beat you. And that was that was a classic Seoul 4-0 where every map feels like it's kind of close, but Seoul wins all of them
Until they don't.
But last
give
week
you the edge to figure out how you do it your best.
And I think Gladiators right now are in. I think people have started to figure out the Gladiators. I don't think they're going to enjoy anywhere near the same success as they did in Stage 2. And especially now that, like, if you know how to punish Fisher, that team does nothing.
True.
Because,
I mean, objectively, Seoul is a good team, but, I mean, as much as
Lord bet.
I've already made a Lord bet.
We can't make everything a war bet. We can't make
I just hear cowardice.
If one guy lives with one bet, then you win the next Lord bet.
I mean, but like to me, it's just I'm not a Soul believer. Just because Noah sits here and talks them up every week, and then at the end of every stage, they're sitting on the outside looking in.
Noah is also that old man who just thinks about the glory days as well. Because every time he talks about Seoul, he's not talking about Seoul. He talks about Lunatic High. Yeah. Like, so he's still living in the Apex days and hasn't realized that we are now in the Overwatch League and not Apex. So,
I mean,
but
they got crushed in Apex too. Feels bad.
But
I'll be interested. I don't have a good gauge on where Seoul is. Just they were losing at the end of Stage 2. They came in making questionable decisions at the beginning of Stage 3, and most people are saying, you know, the reason that Seoul's running their B team is because it's likely that their management thought that their starting lineup might not have done any better.
No, here's why I think it is, because their starting lineup need to prepare for a San Francisco team that looks good. Meanwhile, who gives a fuck? It's the Valiant. I think they're at that point where they're like, all right, we'll do the bare minimum. They're a B student in high school. They don't give a shit. They will do the bare minimum.
If you are a team that has not won a stage title and you are trying to make the end season playoffs, you are not interested in dropping 4 maps to a team.
All they have to do is be the best in it. Obviously, but they need to be able to, I understand training their B team, and they're still leading the West, the Pacific region, and as long as they can continue to do that, then they'll be fine.
I mean, but their lead is not.
It's not huge, but it doesn't have to be because they're serial do minimum work people.
I mean, the problem there is that yes, their lead is not huge, and they cannot afford to drop 4 maps to the person who is right behind them.
Like, their lead is literally 2 maps. That's it. I mean, two games, 2 series, and we've got almost 2 full stages left to play.
I'm confident, so the script will write itself out.
The Lunatic High script. So then on the last day of the week, we got Philly versus London. 4 of us picked Philly, and then Liam and Travis picked London.
What? That's a typo.
This is my hard bet.
What?
Your best bet?
My best
Okay,
bet.
so actually everybody except for Liam picked Philly. I was wondering why Travis picked London there.
No, I've been sitting here talking about how Philadelphia is going to beat
I know, that's
London.
why I was like, why did he pick London? So yeah, I think we've talked about this. Philly, they're getting EQO back. They beat London at the end of Stage 2. I don't see why this should be any different, especially with London looking even more shaky here in this early on in Stage 3. So there's that.
Travis's magic statistics now.
Exactly. And then we've got New York playing Houston. New York is the best team in the league. What can you say? And then not Philly, Florida versus Boston. Boston doesn't have Dreamcasper anymore, so
Doesn't matter. Florida has the same problems, and I don't think. And Boston would be able to beat. They'd be able to run 5 humans and a bot and still beat Florida.
I think Florida can beat them.
I thought so too until I thought about it more, and then I thought differently.
I think Florida's
a
got
Boston
enough
team
to...
that's gonna be.
And you were just saying Dream is like a really important part of Boston. Now he's gone. So how they're gonna take it over Florida?
But Florida's problems are so like ingrained, and honestly, like if you run Tracer Sombra against that team, they are gonna fucking freak out, and mistakes play Sombra. Florida's right now. Pretend Florida's a worse Philadelphia, in every way. Or no, pretend Boston is a worse Philadelphia, right? In that when they had to run Snillo Carpe, that's their situation right now. That team will destroy Florida.
Map pool is Temple of Anubis, Blizzard World, Nepal, and Junkertown.
I feel like Florida doesn't have a chance on any of those.
Any of them.
Yeah.
I'd say they have a hard time in the first two.
They
But
barely
also
know
don't
how to
waste
play.
too late.
Florida barely knows how to play Nepal. Like, I don't think they actually know how to play Nepal. Which
They know
might
that
be
you
the map
get
they
to the
win.
point. That you should walk on the point.
Yeah, they understand the basics of the game, but like they don't. Like Nepal is the most diverse control map, and they barely know how to play it. They've just shown that they don't understand how to team fight correctly. Logix is good, Inside Player is good, and Tavik's okay. And then you start going down the roster, and then to the point, and then their team play is just so god awful. I'm done talking about these guys. It's just not gonna. I don't think it's gonna happen.
So yeah, we'll see. But that's our last prediction, and I think we're about done there. So we've got a lore bet going on between me and Travis for San Francisco versus the Valiant. So be on the lookout for that. And I think that's going to do it. So unless we've got anything else, that's going to be it for the show. We'll have our predictions up tomorrow. And then I think we'll probably have a couple other articles coming out or video content from somebody else during the week.
If you want to know why I'm shitting on Florida so much, stay tuned. I'll write it out.
Yeah, we'll have some of.
Are we playing Retribution?
I think it's just 2 stages of disappointment for Wyatt.
Yeah, they have the exact same problems as they did when they started, and they have not solved anything. If anything, they've solved the wrong problem. But more on that later.
Yep. So stay tuned for that, and that's gonna do it. So we'll catch you.
Bye.
Above us or below us. So check us out there, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye. Leave. Leave now.